Call Power Breakfast on 0861 987 000.
The time is 8:14. You're on Power Breakfast this morning with Tessa Dooms. And of course, we are about 24 hours away from the incoming, I don't know, somebody yesterday referred to him as the minister-elect.
Elected by the president.
Elected by the president. The incoming minister of police will be sworn in tomorrow sometime, as it seems, so that we now have a minister on top of a minister. Anyway.
Yeah, but shout outs to Uncle Gweezy, man. He's done such an incredible job.
Fantastic.
Since taking
Feeling
office.
so much safer.
Yeah. Over the past week, things have just been unraveling, and he hasn't said a word as the Minister of Police. So big shout outs to him.
Like a G in silence. Who's not silent on this matter is the MK party, taking this to the Constitutional Court today. And so we're just looking at what the merits are of the papers that they have now filed. Melusi Xulu joins us, Managing Director of Dondo Attorneys. Melusi, what should we be expecting today in the ConCourt? What case is to be made?
Good morning to you, Tessa, and to the viewers at home. I think it will be highlighting the constitutionality of an appointment of an acting minister who's outside of the cabinet, as based on I believe it's section 91, subsection 3, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that will be highlighted whether does the president have the power to do that, because you can appoint an acting minister, but if you're looking at the constitution, if you're looking at it directly, or if you interpret it as it is, it doesn't state acting minister who's outside of the cabinet, but it says a minister. If I may check here. That's what will be interesting for me, Tessa.
It seems like that is almost a bad starting point, or a moot point, as it were, because surely the president has thought this through and has come up with various possibilities for how he might be able to get Minister or Feroz Kachala to become an acting minister, because one of the pathways that seems obvious to me is to appoint him as a minister without portfolio and then second him to act. Is there anything more substantive to the MK's court challenge other than that? Because it seems like a very low bar that the president may be able to climb quite quickly.
Yeah, I think what they might also try to look at is the fact that maybe the minister, which is the minister that was suspended, was put on special leave. They might look at the fact that maybe they wanted him to be fired, but we've seen situations, about 3 of them, where a minister will be put on special leave. I'll count Stella Abrahams.
Yeah.
I think there's also Umkhize Ukhabazela, when he was the Minister of Health, remember, was investigated for digital vibes. And then I think also Mapasaka Magula was also put on special leave. So the president has done those interventions, and the president's concern is that what if I fire him and it's found that there was no case to begin with? So he's very circumspect to make a decision without a full investigation that has been proven against the minister.
Well, the president's prerogative would allow him to fire somebody without any reason at all. The president has never needed a reason to hire or fire. So it would be entirely possible for him to ask Senzo Mchunu to be relieved of, or relieve Senzo Mchunu of his duties, and then reinstate him at the end of an inquiry, especially if the inquiry is meant to be over a limited period of time, which the president could ask for it to be. He could say 6 months is the cutoff period, and that's going to be the end of it, and then he could bring Mchunu back. Is this a possibility around testing the prerogative of the president as well? We've seen a case like that before with Jacob Zuma, where his prerogative and the rationality of his prerogative was tested. Will the ConCourt be relying on that judgment and perhaps looking into this question of the president's prerogative one more time?
Yes, I think that's what is going to happen, to test the powers that he has, the limits and the broadness of it, if I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about optics, political optics. It's also about political relationships, because if we just put it plain out there, we know that the minister was the one who was supporting the president in 2017 and 2022. He was the key guy in KZN. So I think that also plays a role, because let's look at Minister Dr. Nkabane. Let's look at the other minister from DA. I think it's Whitefield. I'm sorry if I've not put his surname properly.
Whitley,
Yes, he just said, look, you went to the USA without my permission. I'm letting you go.
Yeah.
Kabani, there was allegation that it's not an allegation, it's proved out there that she lied in the parliament and she was let go. So it is prerogative, obviously, but that prerogative will be tested how far it can go and how limited it can be if there is a need for it.
Yeah, because ultimately the rationality test is one that courts often talk about. Is this irrational? And does this sensible? What would the reasonable man do? I think was one of the phrases that I heard quite often in one of those big court cases. But in the case of the president, have we been able to assert that the president does not need to give a reasonable answer for his actions, as long as those actions are within the law? But if he does have those powers, are those powers rational and reasonable, might be the other question.
Yes, I think there's a doctrine that is interesting that I just found. It's called the political accountability doctrine, where it's ensured that even if you're a decision maker, you are still accountable to the public. You are still accountable to the parliament, even if you're a president. So there are certain instances where the court can look at what you've decided and can decide whether it's right or wrong to a certain extent. So that the important thing is there must be checks and balances. Your powers as a president must be not beyond.
Can't be unfettered.
Because that's how dictatorship can begin. So it's very interesting that we have a democracy and instances where people can go to court and test the decision of the president, such as is happening right now.
Yeah, and John Hlophe, of course, the deputy president of the MK party, himself a man of the law, a lawyer, also former judge. He has been quite scathing in this regard about this court case. He has said that the president has invented powers, particularly talking about the power to even place Senzo Mchunu or other ministers on special leave. So that it's happened before is not necessarily an argument for why it should continue to happen if it is not provided for in law. And I went and looked at both the ministerial handbook and the constitution. The issue of special leave actually isn't mentioned in either of those documents. There's no provision that says the president can put so-and-so on special leave, because special leave also, if you look at it on the public service side in terms of the administration, then assumes that it would be paid leave as well. Do you think that that's going to be one of the things that the MK litigates in this context?
Yes, I think it's going to be one of the issues because, as you said, I myself, I focused on the Constitution. I think if you start from Section 91 up to Section 98, you see where the powers of the president are being highlighted, what the president can do in dismissing or appointing and so forth. But there's nowhere where it talks about a special leave situation. That's why I say it's all about optics. Because if he was suspended, inverted commas, it should look like there's serious allegations that need to be attended to, and he should then be put aside. And then the optics that come up is that the minister could be guilty of something. But if you say special leave and he continues getting his benefits, it looks like it's just something to look at temporarily so that it cannot affect the investigation. But it's not as bad as, from an optics point of view, being put on suspension. That's what my view is.
Well, yeah, we did invite the MK to participate in this conversation. They'd initially given us an indication that they would, but we couldn't get them to confirm somebody to be a part of this. But I do think it's going to be important for us to try and get a hold of them in the next few days as this court case unfolds. Hopefully, all of it will be able to be heard today in one sitting, and then we can get their comment on how they think they'll fare. But it will be interesting to hear what case they actually put forward today, because, of course, some of these things have already been litigated before in terms of the powers of the president. But whether they can make a case for something that the president has done now, I think there should be a case to be made here. I think I've said it quite a few times, that I think the president has bent himself into a pretzel, trying to make sure that he balances out his political allegiances and political allegiance, particularly to somebody like Senzo Mchunu. And I think he may be stretching his powers and the Constitution and the law at best, if not, in some ways, acting irrationally and thus violating it. So it's going to be interesting to watch those proceedings today in court. But thank you so much, Melusi Xulu, Managing Director of Dondo Attorneys, for just helping us break down what we should expect in court today. MK versus the president once again. This might be round 3 or 4. And MK is like a baby party. It's been around for like a year and a half. And it's been in the court system litigating against the president and others quite a bit.